3.5, we are solving formulas, and you're saying, what is that all about? So let me give you just a quick example and show you what we're going to be doing in this section. If you start with lots of variables, lots of letters, I'm just going to make something up here. A equals 2x plus 3y minus z. And so we've got lots of letters and numbers in there, and you're going to be asked to solve for either x, y, or z because it's already solved for a. So when we say, so let's just say, for example, we want to solve for y. So what that means, we're going to be, this little line here means what we're going to be learning to do. The final step is going to look like y equals, and over here on the right you're probably going to have an a, a 2, an x, a 3, and a z. Okay, so that's where we're going. Let's take a look at the first example. So this first example is something that you already know how to do, solving a linear equation. And in this equation we only have one variable, x. So we're used to solving for x. So what would you do to solve for x? Okay, subtract 8 from both sides. We're trying to isolate the x, and remember, we're going for x equals something. So subtract 8 from both sides. 4 equals 2x. We still are looking at that x. To get it by itself, what would you do next? Divide both sides by 2. So you get x equals 2, and you have solved for x. But in this case, x is the only variable we see. And you'll see right beneath this line here, I have an equation that's very similar to this one, but instead of a 12, I have a a, and instead of 8, I have a 2y. So I've got three variables here. So if we want to solve for x, though, we're basically going to be doing the same thing that we did back up in this problem. So when we say solve for x, we already know our last step is going to say x equals who knows what. Okay, so back to this one. Let me create some room here. We want x all by itself, and what I like to do is I kind of like to circle the variable that I'm solving for because there's so many there, I'm going to lose track of what I'm trying to get all by itself. So we saw up here, the first thing we got rid of was that 8. So let's get rid of that 2y. What is 2y doing? It is adding. So to undo it, we subtract. So we're going to subtract 2y from both sides. A minus 2y equals, and then on the right, all we have left is our 2x. And in a way, these problems are even easier because we don't even have to subtract. We can't subtract because we don't know what a is and we don't know what 2y is. So we just leave it as a minus 2y. So we're almost there. Our attention is on the x always. So we're seeing, okay, we want to get that all by itself. What's the next thing we would do to get the x by itself? Well, we divide both sides by 2. And on this side, you just write down the whole side, divide by 2. And on the right, you have x. So your final step is just turn that around so that you have it in terms of x. So we would write a minus 2y all over 2. And we have solved for x. Okay, next one. R equals x plus y plus z, and we're solving for y, so I'm going to circle that y to remember that's what we're trying to get by itself. Okay, in this problem I see what's in the way. Well, over here we've got plus x and plus z, so to get rid of that x, what are we going to do? We're going to subtract x from both sides, so r minus x, and we just leave it like that because we don't know how to subtract that. And then on this side, when you subtract left x, you have just y plus z left. We're almost there. Let's circle that y again to remember that's what we're trying to get all by itself. So who's in the way? That's z. What's z doing? It's being added. So to undo it, you're going to subtract z from both sides, subtract it from the left. Since you don't know the values, you just write down what you would be doing if you did know them, and you get this. So woohoo, we got y all by itself. So last step, just turn that baby around, and there's your answer. You have taken this equation, this formula, and solved for y. Okay, Let's do a few more examples and then we'll probably have to go to another video. So now in this case we want to solve for b. And I'm going to take advantage of this moment here because a lot of times students ask me, who's that 1/3 with? Is that 1/3 with A? And the truth is, the 1/3 is not really with anybody. It's just 1/3 times A times B times C. So those four things are being multiplied and they can be multiplied in any order. So the 1/3 doesn't go with A, it's just there in front of A. Okay, so we're trying to solve for B. We want it all by itself. So let's first get rid of this 1/3. How do we get rid of that 1/3? Well, since it's multiplying, remember we can divide by 1/3, but you're probably sick of me saying this. Dividing by 1/3, the cheap way to do that is to multiply by 3. So dividing by 1/3 is the same thing as multiplying by 3. So let's multiply both sides by 3. 3m equals, and when you multiply that right-hand side by 3, it's going to cancel with that 1/3, and we're just going to have, let's show that over here, multiplying reciprocals, everything cancels, you're left with 1, so that's what we wanted to happen. So we have now just 1 ABC, and again we're still trying to solve for B. Who's in the way? Well, both A and C are in the way, so let's just do this at once because they're both being multiplied, so we can just do the same thing to both sides. And I'm going to be explicit here. If you divide both sides by A over C, I'm sorry, by AC, what's going to happen over here on the left, we don't know what any of those values are, so you just leave it as 3m divided by AC. And over on the right, well, the A is going to cancel, the C is going to cancel, and what do we have left? What we wanted, that little B by itself. Final answer. Okay, that's not so bad. Try another one. We've got a few more minutes here. We're solving for H. Okay, what's that little symbol right here? Okay, that's pi. And pi, as you probably know, just stands for a ratio between the circumference of a circle and the diameter. You're going, yeah, I know it had something to do with a circle, and it's equal to approximately 3.4, but you don't even need to know that because we just use pi to stand for that number, so it just behaves just like a variable here. So we've got H, we want to solve for it. Who's in the way? Well, both pi and r squared, and they are all being multiplied. That means pi times r squared times h, so we can, I'm going to put it in red, we can divide both of those guys out, and if you do it over there, you've got to do it over here. So the result on the left, v over pi r squared, and cancel, 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 equals h, and my favorite step, just turning that around, and we have finished it. Okay, I am going to do a few more examples in the next video, so I will see you there.